In this example, the first whip pikes too much without hollow chest, and also lands with the body almost vertical, causing the second whip to fly back too low and forcing the second whip into another pike. The arms and feet were also bent in the air. Pike without upper chest hollow. Body already close to the vertical before floor contact. Body almost vertical. Second whip pike during initial contact. In this second example, the arms and legs stay straight, and the two whips maintain an even traveling height instead of going up and down, which causes them to lose power. The tumble track is very helpful when learning how to connect whips. The second part of the first whip could show more hollow instead of just a pike. The second whip shows a better hollow chest. The tumble track can be a useful tool during the whip back learning process. The gymnast can make a good number of repetitions with less chance of the rebounding stress that a very under-rotated whip back can cause when learning it on the floor. On the tumbling track, the gymnast can focus on mastering proper shapes and air sense to control the skill motions, though it cannot be a total substitute for the regular competition floor training. The ground support times for competition floor rebounding demand more speed, power, and quick reactions. Coaches must plan for wise combinations of physical preparation for power development. Soft, slower surface training such as the tumble track for increased repetitions aim to improve air sense, body shaping, and a progressive buildup of the skills on the regular competition floor. These three whips are not piking, but if the hollow position was a little deeper, the changing from each hollow into each tight arch could be even more explosive. Floor contact close to vertical. Take off slightly past vertical. Tight arch in the air. No excessive pike, but hollow chest could be a little deeper. These examples show the unnecessary arms bent mistake. It will be better to circle the arms around straight. All these gymnasts are working very hard at mastering powerful whip series. The goal is to maintain an even height on each whip back to block the rebound off the floor at the proper angles, to make them fast and powerful, and to master good body changes from tight arch to hollow and back to tight arch. In this first example, the gymnast demonstrates just a fair whip back that still has some problems to polish. Now she shows a whip with extreme arms bent, an extra unnecessary action that complicates the interconnection on a whip back series or from a whip back to any somersault. In the two connected whips, she is too high on the first one because her feet blocking angle is close to 1 on a somersault. Her arms also stay up too long, slowing the rotation and making it harder to set up the second whip. As a result of those mistakes, her second whip's rotational momentum dies and she ends up totally under-rotating the skill. Too much blocking. Arms up too long away from the center of mass slow down the rotation. This is again an example of the arms staying up too long away from the center of mass and therefore slowing the skill's rotational momentum. Once more, the extremely bent arms mistake. Once the gymnast knows how to combine a whip back to handsprings and to another whip back, they can begin combining whips and somersaults. Connections from a whip back to somersault require a low blocking angle to rebound and leave the ground closer to the vertical line instead of later, like when connecting to a second whip back. The earlier block and set converts the horizontal momentum into a vertical height. Of these two examples, the second one has a better whip to somersault setup, and it shows the height and rotation of the tuck kick out. Look at the point of feet contacting the rebound close to the white line. Look now at the under-rotated landing past the other white line. Now this is a ground contact on the second example further from the white line, and then the better landing on the same side in between the two lines. In the second one, the gymnast was in the air by the vertical and showed a nice tuck kick also vertical to the floor. From the whip to back tuck connection, the gymnast progressed to the whip to back layout. All the technical requirements of the basic round-off, whip back, and layout apply. The better the combined integration of great technique and great power, the better and safer the whole tumbling execution. Observe how the gymnast leaves the ground after moving beyond the vertical for the whip back, and close to the vertical for the layout. If the gymnast wishes to make a high layout full of the whip back, they must coordinate the blocking angle and the rebounding takeoff from the floor as close to the vertical line as possible. If they are working to build multiple tumbling passes, then the layout full may leave the ground later to keep a lower somersault with enough horizontal momentum to connect the other somersaulting skills. This example is closer to the kind used to continue into a backward connection. Once the whip back technique has been mastered, and the gymnast knows how to connect them to high layouts, and is also capable of performing single and multiple fulls separately, it is just a matter of taking progressive safe steps to begin learning how to connect both skills successfully. Tumble tracks, pit progressions, and later using softer mats on the regular floor can all help to master these tumbling combinations. This is a whip to double full competition example. This is a fair example of a whip back connected to a 2.5 performed at the beginning of a floor routine. The gymnast keeps his arms straight on the whip and correctly changes from the arch shape to a hollow instead of piking down for the connecting rebound. Notice the arms straight through the whip back and the body changing its previous arch shape into a hollow one that is maintained all the way to ground contact. And opens the body to a tight arch while taking off the floor again. Eventually the whip back to a half full may be combined with another front tumbling skill. Though the gymnast whips back with bent arms and pikes down a little, she still manages to combine her personal power with sufficient technical dexterity to generate and maintain enough horizontal momentum to block the skill and rebound into a fair double pike. Poor technique wastes a gymnast's power. On the other hand, technical improvement alone becomes limited without individual power maximized through physical preparation. Therefore, great technique may be defined as the effective utilization of available resources in the right amounts with appropriate actions in the right direction at the right time. In this slow motion, the gymnast is moving backwards during the whip's ground support to avoid getting too high and losing horizontal momentum. Notice also the tight arch initiating the double pike, the eyes spotting the ground, and the knees bending instantly when they make contact with the mat. This is another fair example of this long combination. The gymnast is tumbling slightly crooked and lands right on the edge of the mat. This kind of landing can hurt an ankle badly, which is why it is so important to tumble in a straight line. One of the keys to successfully connect a whip on a multiple tumbling pass resides in the technical mastery of each separate skill. As an example, we have highlighted a few of the many technical points to take into account during a multiple pass. Good moving up and forward hurdle, not turning sideways too early so the legs can make a strong push and kick action, no diving so the round-off turnover is quick and powerful, good whip setup with center of mass in front of the vertical and front of the feet contacting the floor first. tight arch with center of mass leaving the ground already beyond the vertical. Ground contact for the back full and a half, again with the center of mass in front of the vertical. To prevent the twisting somersault to get excessive height, again the center of mass has moved beyond the vertical, and for correct back twisting to the right arm is already dropped lower than the left. Arms set up and center of mass behind the feet to rebound, aiming for height on the Rudy. For a correct right front twisting technique, the left arm drops down first ahead of the right. These are just a few technical details of the many more to keep an eye on when coaches look at any tumbling pass moving at natural speed. We have added several still frames to this sequence to review some important technical points related to the different skills performed in this complex combination. The gymnast round-offs with no dive to maintain fair horizontal momentum. The gymnast shows a hollow blocking position with the shoulders in front of the feet to start the whip back. The gymnast's body changes to a tight arch with the shoulders moving quickly behind the feet for the whip back takeoff. Notice the center of mass further forward in front of the feet. The gymnast's body position changes into a tight arch in front of the vertical to increase the rotation. Layout twisting is more effective with a straight body position than an arched or hollow one. As he finishes his twist, the athlete starts preparing for the next rebounding skill. Analyze the skill at normal speed without still frames. The gymnast over-rotated the landing.